Okay, so this thing is actually massive. This is a new light from Godox. Maybe we should spin it out of the way so we can actually get some room here. This is a light mat. This is an LED light mat. LED light mats are awesome, and I haven't really got to talk about them a lot on the channel because really until now there hasn't been any really that affordable to talk about in the kind of prosumer market. I mean, years and years ago, Light Mat, the brand name Light Mat, came out with LED light mats like this that were bi-color, and I always really loved them, but they were somewhere between $4,000 and $6,000 for a 4-foot version. And you know, obviously some other companies have come out with light mats since then, Falcon Eyes, we've got the Amaran light mats. But what makes this Godox one so special and why it's my new favorite light is because it's so large and for the cost. I think this one is somewhere around $1,500 to $1,700. This is the 4-foot by 2-foot version. Now, light mats have been around, like I said before, but normally like the Amaran one, it's only 2-foot by 2-foot. That's just not that big of a light source. It doesn't really do enough for me. Like a Nova or any other sort of like panel light is gonna do more and be more powerful, so it doesn't really make sense for me to use a 2-foot. But a 4-foot, you know, you can take this like this, and you have a perfect key light for something like an interview or a close-up, and you barely have to do anything to set this up. So I've always been a big proponent of the bigger the better. Obviously, the softer the light can be. Also, the bigger that it is, the more LEDs you can put on it, so the brighter it's going to be. And that's really why this one is exciting, because it's a really nice light, and especially for how much it costs. Now, I know it's quite a bit of money for some people when it comes to lighting equipment, but most lights in this kind of realm are about that much money. Those main lights that you want to have in your kit, they're usually going to get above $1,000 at this point for those really nice, powerful, professional lights. This is the F400. It's called the No LED, I believe. No LED. I don't know exactly how they say it. This one is built with the softbox and a grid on it, and you can see here that even with all of that, it's just a few inches thick. And so if you're going, like, if you think about this as a replacement for like a softbox like the one I often use, I use it with like my Nanlite 500 or 720. And it's a 4-foot softbox, so it's really wide like this as well, but it's deep. I mean, we're talking it can be like, you know, multiple feet deep. So when you try to put it in like a space like this and light someone, it's really hard. But with this, you don't have to do that at all. So if you're doing any sort of type of like interview or close-up type shot, you only have a few inches that you have to work with. Another great thing about this is that it's foldable. So if you do want to, you know, not have it in this softbox form, all you have to do is pull all this stuff off, and you will have this really thin little mat that you can actually fold up and just like throw in your car or throw in whatever. Really lightweight. Actually, the thing about this, and normally why light mats are so cool, is because you can like tape them to the ceiling or to a wall and get them in really small, tight places where you normally couldn't put a light and still get that nice kind of big, soft source. This one is very light. It is, and it's made out of really nice material. The problem I think that with the lightness, the weight of it all, is the cabling. So the heaviest part of this kit is going to be this cable. So it's one thing to be able to tape this to the ceiling, but you are going to have to wrangle the cable because the cable actually weighs more than like the unit itself. So just keep that in mind. The cabling, it needs to be this big, you know, to handle the power of these LEDs. But that's a small price to pay to be able to like tape this to something if you wanted to, or even just put a couple nails in the wall. And then if you can see here, if we remove this grid, which the grid helps a lot. I did a little test setup with this with some friends playing chess in my house, and when we put the grid on it, it really cuts the light off the background and makes it more focusable, which is really nice. Then you can take off this part here, and then obviously you've got bi-color, so you've got 2 different types of LED lights. And then you've got these little hooks on the end here, which right now we've got this frame that's holding the whole thing together. But you can pull this out, and then you just have these circular tabs, and you can literally just throw like a nail on the wall and hang it from those tabs. And that makes things really, really easy to quickly set up a 4-foot, very bright light. Actually, speaking of the brightness, when I was doing some lighting setups, I was often 1% was too bright. Like if you're trying to do like a dimly lit scenario, maybe make it look like tungsten lighting, like from a practical in the background or something like that. this is, well, 1% is going to give you a lot of power. This actually basically can compete with Windows because you're able to get it so close to your subject and make it soft because of how wide it is. So 1% is really bright. Keep that in mind. The dimmest it can go is still gonna be pretty bright. So like I was shooting at T10, which obviously that's gonna add a lot of light. So I actually put an ND filter on my lens in order to have more control of the light because it can't get this too dark. It's really a good problem to have. Oh no, the light's too bright, bummer. That it's easier to take away light to your lens than it is to add light to your lens. So this is totally fine being that bright. It does get really bright. Let's actually kick it on. Also, I believe the CRI is like 96 plus, so the CRI is pretty good on this. You're gonna have pretty good color fidelity out of it. So that's definitely a benefit. Let's do this real quick. So we can actually whip out the Godox Light app, which is really fast and really intuitive, and we can just turn the light on. I'm sure that is wrecking the lens. So that is at 52% power. Let's take it all the way down to 1%. Let's see. 1% might be clipping on the camera, I don't know. But that's, yeah, 1%. And now you can see how it's like lighting my face and how good that looks. And just to show off what it can do here, let's go all the way to 100%. Crazy. And then of course it is by color, so you can adjust the color temperature all the way down to 2700 Kelvin or all the way up to 8500 Kelvin, which I have found like in my house with how the light comes in here, I do actually kind of run my lights like around 6000 Kelvin. I always feel like that looks just a little bit more blue, just looks a little bit nicer. And it's not too warm. You can also change the dimming curve on this, just like any of these other apps with these other big manufacturers. Like right now it's on a linear curve, so as you like go up and down on the brightness, it's just a straight 1-to-1, rather than like having like a, let's see, this one's like an exponential curve, so you can see how it kind of goes up in a different increment. It gets like brighter quicker as you go up. So it obviously has effects, you know, LED lights, you know, you can do fire, flashlight, lightning, explosion, that sort of thing. So, you know, you've seen this before. This is nothing new. What is new is that you get it in this really nice, huge LED matte form factor. They also make a 2x2 version, and then they also make one that's even bigger than this. I think it's a 4x4. Now, they weren't able to send that one out to me, which they did send me this one to try out. The 4x4 is really what I wanted. That's about a $2,000 light, but you're getting 4 feet of LED lights. That is so powerful, so fun. I would really like to get one of those in the future. It's also water resistant, so you can actually spray this with water. You can use this in the rain and it's not going to ruin the light, which is just always a nice handy feature when it comes to your lighting. So I'm going to break this down real quick and we're going to see how it looks just as a mat itself and how it kind of folds up. But before we do that, let's talk about today's sponsor, which is Squarespace. Squarespace is an all-in-one platform to present your work online. You can start with one of their best-in-class templates, or using Squarespace's next-generation web design system, Fluid Engine, you can customize every detail with the reimagined drag-and-drop technology for desktop or mobile. Or maybe you want to start an online store to sell your photography or other products. Squarespace has all the built-in functionality to get one of those up and running quickly, and I've actually been using Squarespace to run my online stores for almost a decade now. And of course, if you're like me, you're probably looking to build a portfolio, which Squarespace has a ton of features for that very thing. You can even create private galleries for client work using these tools. So if you're looking for a home for your work, well, you can just do that with Squarespace. Click the link in the description to get 10% off, and I want to thank Squarespace for sponsoring this video. You kind of wish that this like cable could come undone here. That would make things really easy if you could unplug from here and then mount it and then plug right back in here, and it would also get rid of a lot of weight when you're using it. But that's not how it's set up. Pretty nice though. I mean, look, I just folded this down and you can throw that in your, it comes with a carrying case with all this stuff because the power unit is quite big. So let's show that off now. So I mean, the ballast power unit can be ran off of V mounts on the side. And it does have a full control box here, like a lot of LED lights that are out now. Obviously, you can control everything from this unit. It is separate. This is where all your weight's going to be, which is nice because it's separate. You know, it's not attached to the actual light unit itself, so you can pull it away. And it's got plenty of cable to work with as well. So I did a couple setups with it just to try it out. Nothing too fancy, but what I did like about it was how light it was and how I could boom it over into places that you normally, it's harder to get a light, and how bright it was. I mean, I was lighting everything inside here, competing with the windows. No problems inside my house basically because of how the sun was. Something else I forgot to mention is that this is a 400-watt light, which is pretty powerful. I keep talking about how bright it is, but 400 watts is the actual output of it, depending on where you're at on the spectrum of the white balance, of course. I don't know exactly where that peak is at. Hopefully it's at somewhere around 5600 Kelvin, but I can't be totally sure for that. I'm pretty sure the actual output is 410 watts, so that 400 is going to have a discrepancy depending on where you're at on the spectrum. But yeah, I think this is my new favorite light. A light like this has been something I've wanted in my kit for a very long time, like 8 or so years now, ever since the original Lightgear light mat came out. But now for $1,099, I can get basically exactly what I've always wanted: a foldable LED light mat that has lots of power and that I can use as a key light for most situations. I really think when I shoot my feature film that I'll be doing soon, I'll be using this for so many of the setups. Any interior scenes with some actors doing like dialogue or whatever, this will be a really easy light to move around by myself and get just a nice little key light. It's just a great replacement for like something like a typical softbox setup, or if you just need a nice 4-foot soft lighting source. I'm actually using it right now to light this scene, and I think it looks pretty good. So like I said, these are, I think, out of stock while I'm filming this video, but if you want to get on the list to be notified when they do come back in stock, please just click that link in the description below to get notified. But I think that's all for me today. As always, until next time guys, I'm such a Sakurai. See ya.